And it looks like we're live. Can somebody please confirm that we are live? And welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This is a very late July live stream. I've got to get better in August because last day of the month here. And I should have done this a little bit earlier, but I didn't. So this is a combined live stream of both the Hidden Gems A to Z. We're up to K and L. So I'm going to do 5 movies from the letter K, 5 movies from the letter L. I've got a haul. I'm going to review a couple of things, and there's going to be a bit of a Q&A. So it's jam-packed for the next 2 hours. So can Middle-Aged Geek Girl please confirm whether I'm live or just talking to myself? I'll just wait for that. And anybody who's in the chat, just say hi. Let me know you're there. I am live, says Middle-Aged Geek Girl. So all good. So I hope everyone's doing well. We're kind of good here. We went and saw a stage play on Saturday, which was very good, and a friend of mine directed it, Grant Watson, and Grant's going to be on the channel at some stage in the future. Had a chat with him, and he's going to come on, and we're going to talk about movies at some stage. His wife, Sonia Marcom, was in there as well, and she was part of the two-hander play that we saw. It was only 50 minutes. It was a one-act play, but geez, it was good. I'm not going to do any spoilers in case it gets another release, but going and seeing a live play was a great bit of fun. Flesh and blood cinema, in a sense. And yeah, it was just a fantastic experience there. Hi, Ross. How you doing? So yeah, I think I'm going to try to go and see more plays. I don't know how Middle-Aged Geek Girl feels about that, but if there's some things on that aren't too expensive and are fairly local, I think I'm interested in doing a little more theatre. Not as a performer, of course, but yeah, there was an immediacy and a kind of energy about it that's totally different than cinema. Hey, Keith F., you got the message? So how you doing, mate? Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Did a little bit of a drive out to the country. I went down to Hastings and Mornington, did a bit of a movie haul from the thrift store. So all good there. So what's the weather like where everybody is? Here it is 11 degrees centigrade and kind of dark still because winter sucks. And but I'm hoping for things to warm up a little bit. I know the Northern Hemisphere's had a pretty warm, but I'm kind of looking forward to things warming up. As you can see, I haven't really renovated the man cave the way I want to. I keep having these plans to gut and clear out a lot of this stuff and redo the man cave to make it a better space for when I'm doing live streams and other YouTube videos. But at this stage, I haven't done that. But I'm going to get started on the A to Ks. Tennant Creek's warmish. Yeah, Tennant Creek would be. I've got friends in Darwin, and every time it gets down to 20 degrees centigrade, they start dressing up like Scott of the Antarctic. Keith says in UK we've had heat waves and droughts in May and June, but July's back to normal UK summer. Okay, 102 degrees, 39 degrees in Austin. Oh, Hunter, I could really use that. I could use a couple of days of 39 degrees. Yep, I got my best headgear Metroid. Yeah, the Vegemite beanie, which is beautifully warm too. I've got a couple of beanies. There's one that's slightly too hot for this climate, but the Vegemite beanie is always fun, and the pom-pom's fun to play with. So I'm going to start on the I'm going to start on the K's and L's of my hidden gem recommendations of movies. And I will be addressing the chat as I do it. So 5 movies from K, 5 movies from L, all carefully selected. This first one's a really great Phil Coulson 1950s crime drama you might have seen, or you might not have. There's a few bonuses in it. There's a before and after of the restoration. I like that when they restore a movie. I like seeing how crappy it was before the restoration and how good it was afterwards. But this one you might not have seen. It stars John Payne, Preston Foster, Colin Gray, Lee Van Cleef, Neville Brand, and Jack Elam. Hey, Thresh Pondo, you did make it to the chat. Anyway, this one is Kansas City Confidential, which is a high recommend from me. It's about a guy who gets framed for a really big robbery, and as he's framed, even though he's released by the cops because he has an alibi, he loses his job, and then he goes to track down the criminals in Mexico and kind of infiltrates the mob, and things resolve themselves like that. But it's a really tight little crime drama. Yeah, Ross, it is a great film, and again, this is a skinny Blu-ray, which my shelves really love. Who's it by? I'm just trying to work out who released this one. And they've got a really skinny logo on it. It says HD Cinema something or other. But yeah, if you can get a copy of Kansas City Confidential, really great. It's not quite film noir. It's more like a crime drama than a noir. But Phil Carlson was a great underrated director in the 50s and 60s in particular. And Kansas City Confidential is one you should have in your collection. Let's see, I'm going to go with the obvious next. I've got these in alphabetical order because I'm trying to be more organized as a person. This one everybody's seen, and I'm pretty sure everybody loves. And the extras, not really. A little bit. Kentucky Fried Movie. If you haven't seen Kentucky Fried Movie, you should see it. It's from the 1970s. This is the Umbrella Entertainment release of it. It's got all the things you need. It's got a kung fu parody of Enter the Dragon. It's got nudity. It's got comedy. It's got some fantastic set pieces, and it's Zucker Abrams Zucker, the guys who did Airplane, and other things, and directed by John Landis, and it is just such fun. Yeah, Fistful of Yen. But yeah, Kentucky Fried Movie I can watch every couple of years and then still enjoy. Some of the comedy's dated and some of the satirical references have dated, but it's just got that energy where if you miss a joke or you didn't really dig a joke, you can wait at 10 seconds and another one will pop up in the same way all the Zucker Zebra and Zucker things did. But I'm glad I got a copy of this. I don't necessarily need it if they did a 4K or a Blu-ray of it, I don't necessarily need to upgrade this. But yeah, Kentucky Fried Movie, a lot of fun. Surprised they didn't get sued by Colonel Sanders, but they didn't, and it's all good. So that's the second one, Kentucky Fried Movie. A lot of fun to watch. Really rewatchable too, which is one of the criteria I'm going for with the A to Zs of the hidden gems. Is the movie rewatchable or is it just a one and done? Hey Jerry, you finally watched The Uninvited Guest from Spain. Great indie gem from the early 2000s. I haven't watched it, but I have acquired a copy of it. It's not necessarily a legit copy, but I want to watch it before I decide to commit to it. So I have located a copy online that I will watch, and I'll roll it into one video at some stage. Yep, that's why it takes Sanhedrin. Yeah, Vegemite's great. Vegemite's better than Marmite. You're either a Vegemite person or you're a Marmite person. New Zealanders are Marmite people. Australians are Vegemite people. Marmite people in the UK as well. But I've tasted Marmite in the UK and in New Zealand, and it just doesn't do it for me. Vegemite is my breakfast thing. So next one is from Network, which unfortunately has just gone into bankruptcy. Really good English releasing company that did a lot of fantastic. Hang on. Let's find out, what about Foster's? Nobody in Australia drinks Foster's. Foster's is a really bad beer that we export to other countries, trying to convince them that it's a good beer. Yeah, Keith, you do shout bingo if I match a movie that's on your list. This one is mad. It's got Michael Gough, Margot Johns, Jess Conrad, and Claire Gordon. Congo, the UK version of King Kong's. Hey, Zom, how you doing, mate? How's Mary doing? So yeah, Conga is a totally insane movie with Michael Gough in it. Basically, he has a chimp that he turns into a giant monster. We got a bingo from Flash Bondo. Yeah, but Conga is just mad. Low budget stuff. Herbert Cohen made it. It's made in kind of off-brand Technicolor, Eastman Color, and Spectrumation, which it says on their cover. Yeah, and yeah, Conga I like because low budget. The rampage that the giant ape does is on the Camden High Street in suburban London, which is kind of crazy. Uh, Zom says Mary's doing great. Mary turned into a giant monster too. She does seem to have, made from the photos. But yeah, I really like Conga, and there's a booklet with it as well. I forgot there was a booklet. There's a Conga booklet attached, and this is another reason why it's a tragedy. We lost network. See, never give drugs to a gorilla. It's a it's a rookie move. It's crazy. You should never give drugs to a gorilla. So yeah, Conga. It's like Gorgo. It's one of those kind of English knockoff versions of something from a different country. And in this case, Gorgo is the English Godzilla. But Conga is a lot of fun. Glad I picked up a copy of that before Network folded. Yeah, Goff plays a lech. Yeah, he's a ladies' man who has zero riz. You can never understand why women like his character in this movie because he's such a prick. But Conga, a lot of fun to watch. Again, rewatchable and crazy, and in the best kind of way, crazy. What's the weather like where you are, Zom? And Gappa is the Japanese Gorgo. Well, Gojira would be the Japanese version of it. Miles says, for summer. Okay, well, just enjoy it while it lasts, mate. Next one is a Christmas movie, and it's one of Sal's favorite Christmas movies. Based on German mythology. From 2015, I think, it stars Adam Scott and Toni Collette, who's Australian but never plays Australians. Krampus, which is mad fun. It feels almost like an A24 movie, which it is. It's a universal release. But Krampus, basically, a small town gets snowed in, and Krampus has unleashed the kind of evil Germanic Santa Claus, which is really well evoked in physical makeup and physical costuming. Monster, really creepy, tongue-in-cheek fun too. Like all good Christmas horror movies, it's got its tongue firmly in its cheek, and I really enjoyed that. Who else is in this? Is there anybody else good in this one? Dave Keckner's in there. He's always good value. Not really anybody else, but Krampus is fun, and it's one of my go-to Christmas movies. I've got a few. There's a very Harold and Kumar Christmas, which is always fun. There's this one. There's, of course, Die Hard, which will come up later in the live stream. But Krampus, totally worth watching, and it's rewatchable once a year, like many good Christmas movies. It's Creepmas, according to Middle-Aged Geek Girl, not Christmas. But favorite Christmas movie, Night of the Comet. Fresh Bonner, Keith says, Fresh Bonner, I don't drink Foster's anymore. Current fave is Wild Top Blonde beer. I like dark beers. I mean, I've got some stout in the fridge. And my niece came down from Brisbane with her daughter, and we had a pub lunch, and I got a really nice draft Guinness while we're there. So I really enjoyed that. Wasn't there a Krampus movie with William Shatner? It could have been. You're going to make me look it up, aren't you? Let me have a look. A Christmas Horror Story? Would that be it? 2015 Canadian anthology. Yeah, starring William Shatner. So that would be it. Haven't seen that one. William Shatner playing a character called DJ Dangerous Dan. That's red flags all over it. William Shatner playing a DJ. Yeah, I may have to watch that now. I'll warn you, I may have to watch it. I may have to share it with you if I do. So thanks for that, Zom. Deep cut there, mate. I'll post a link to the Wikipedia page in the chat so people can check that out. That looks totally mad, bad, and not to be watched twice. So, yep, there is that. And I've got the last of the case. Now, I couldn't find the actual movie. I don't have it, and I've ordered it because I got a really cheap deal on eBay. But there is a new version of it, which came out in 2007. But the original movie I'm talking about is Quieten, a 1965 Japanese ghost anthology movie, which is really good. But there is a 2007 version called Kaidan, which that is. When I get the full version of Quidan with a KW, I'll do a bit of a review about it on the channel because it's an incredibly good anthology ghost movie. There's how many stories are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are a whole bunch of them. There's the black hair about an impoverished swordsman who divorces his wife and lives for a wealthy woman who's older and not too good looking, and things don't go particularly well for him after that. There's Woman in the Snow, where a couple of woodcutters take shelter in a little hut during a snowstorm and meet a snow woman, what they call a Yuki Onna in Japan. And that kind of leads one of them on an interesting trail after the snow woman kills his companion. I'm not going to do any spoilers on these. There's another. The third story is called Hoichi the Earless, which is about a blind musician who's really, really good and is about to be attacked by a demon. And so the priests who like his music decide to protect him from the demon. And the last one's called A Cup of Tea. I think this is the weakest one of them. But again, it's a ghost story set in a tea house in Hakuzan. And it's got a certain vibe about it, but I don't think it lands as hard as the other 4 stories. And the best thing about Quiet is incredible production design. It looks beautiful in every single frame of the film. It was directed by a guy called Masaki Koyabashi. And if you can find a copy of Quiet, which was released by Criterion, I believe. I'm not getting the Criterion edition, I'm getting the English version. But Quiet is something really special as far as ghost stories is concerned. It doesn't have jump scares, it doesn't have full-on gore and horror. It has that creeping dread kind of stuff, which works really, really well. So that's it for the K's. I'm going to have a sip of a drink and then we'll get into the Elves, and I've got a few interesting things there. Before I do, has anybody seen anything good lately? I'll wait for the chat to do that. I'll give us a little breathing space between them. Just waiting for chat to catch up. I even got Middle-Aged Geek Girl to go to the movies twice, which was kind of interesting. Yes, Middle-Aged Geek Girl says Barbie, because we went and saw Barbie. And I'm going to do a brief review of Barbie a little bit later. But anybody else seen anything in the cinema or anywhere else? Strange New World. Lee Lavery. Hi, Lee. Yeah, I've been watching Strange New Worlds. It's good. It's solid Star Trek. And the ensemble works, the characters work, the plot works. And it's particularly the episode I just watched with the Klingon ambassador. Beautiful work. Hunter Scale says, saw Oppenheimer on IMAX. We couldn't see it on IMAX, but I did see it. And I saw it with a really good Dolby Atmos sound system in the cinema. And that was pretty special. Correspondent says, I did go out and watch If finally. Cool. Yeah, Middle-Aged Geek Girls watched the Sharksploitation documentary, which I haven't done. Did I pick my best pink outfit when I went to see Barbie? I don't have a pink outfit. Unfortunately, I didn't. But we went and saw it and we enjoyed it. I did get a pink ice cream. We had ice creams which are called Choc Tops. They're a cone packed with ice cream with a little ice cream dome on it. And then they dip it in chocolate. And they had pink chocolate for the Barbie showing. So I did get a pink Choc Top. Hunter says, don't think it needed IMAX. Yeah, fair enough. And Ross Gilton watched Rebecca earlier. Really great. Mrs. Danvers in Rebecca, played by Judith Anderson, who was Australian. Fantastic, complex character. Hi, Catherine. How you doing? Yeah, monsoon was late for making up for intensity. Probable tornado Friday. Gusts of 60 miles an hour. Inches of rain flooding around the house. Well, sounds interesting, but not ideal. Excuse me. Jerry says, saw knock around guys last week at Pleasant Hidden Crime Gym. I'll have to check that one out. Ian says, off to Mount Isa. Watch you drive safely, Ian. Mount Isa is a place I want to go to, but not for very long. Line Walker 2, The Invisible Spy, says Zom. Is it worth watching, mate? But yeah, lots of interesting things coming up. People are talking about, we're going to go into a drought, of course, with the writers and the actors strike coming up. So there's going to be a drought of new cinema coming up on us, and rightly so too, because the studios have been ripping them off for decades. Matt Troy said, watch Good Omens 2 right now. I'm going to watch that. I'm not there yet, but I'll probably watch it sometime during the week. Any hope for the new Exorcist movie? Give it a go. You know, the worst you're going to lose is 2 hours. Sudden Fear, Joan Crawford movie. Watched a couple of Joan Crawford movies recently. I saw Straight Jacket and Berserk, which I really should review for the channel, both of which are kind of older Joan Crawford movies from the 60s, but they're both interesting. So yeah, it looks like there's a lot. Hope you didn't get any damage in the house, Catherine. That sounds pretty nasty. But yeah. Keith says cra, which I think he didn't mean to type. But anyway, I'm going to get on with the Elves because there's a bit to do, and I want to get this done in the first hour if I can. Watched an old Howard Hawks. Garfield's Great White North. What'd you watch? Picked up a slew. Quatermass 1, 2, and 3. Tarantula, Deadly Mantis, Monolith Monsters. Yeah. Crawford was great in Straight Jacket, Keith. Absolutely. But yeah, I got a whole bunch of those, like Deadly Mantis and Monolith Monsters. I picked up in the Umbrella double edition Blu-rays, and the transfers are really good on them. They are region locked, but still really good stuff. But anyway, on to the Elves. Howard Hawks from the 1950s stars Jack Hawkins, Joan Collins, Dewey Martin, and it is one of those great big, not biblical epics, but great ancient epics, which had 9,787 extras in one scene. Land of the Pharaohs. Now, if you haven't seen Land of the Pharaohs, it's mad. None of the actors is Egyptian, of course, because this is a 1950s American historical film. But it has Joan Collins as the younger wife of the Pharaoh, played by Jack Hawkins. And it's got a really good ending. I like the ending of this one. But it's also on an enormous scale. It is a real epic film. And it's a very atypical Howard Hawks film, because usually you have really interesting female characters who aren't just trophy wives the way Joan Collins' character is. But yeah, this got what's it got? Featurettes has got Peter Bogdanovich does a commentary on this one, and with some interview excerpts from director Howard Hawks. But yeah, Land of the Pharaohs, I think movies like Cleopatra get all the love, and there's 10 Commandments and things like that. But this one's got something going for it. It's really cool. The production design, particularly in the tombs and temples, is really great. I don't know how historically accurate it is, but it really is something to watch. Yeah, Garfield's Land of Fear is great. Excellent story and production. Fantastic stuff. Is it widescreen? Was it late enough for widescreen? I'm just trying to think. The script was written by William Faulkner, along with a couple of other people. But Faulkner had a hand in the script. Yeah, sand does get in everywhere, David. But yeah, Land of the Pharaohs, totally worth watching. Really great. And it does count as a hidden gem, because when people talk about movies set in ancient Egypt, it's not the first one that comes to mind. but it does have that great plot. Jack Hawkins does pretty well. Joan Collins, when she was young and less pretentious, is quite good in it as well. But really interesting film that should be in collection. I think it may have a Blu-ray release already. I thought that's what you meant, Keith, about Cra. But next one is from 1994. I'm pretty sure it is. Really kind of erotic thriller, and erotic thrillers were really big in the 1990s because the AIDS epidemic had come on and sex had become dangerous, and so thrillers that are erotic thrillers became very on point for the 80s and the 90s. But this one's really good. Not a big budget film, directed by John Dahl, starring Linda Fiorentino, Bill Pullman, and Peter Berg. The Last Seduction. The Last Seduction is really great. I want to rewatch this one because I think it really is great. You've got Linda Fiorentino, who hasn't made movies for a long time now. She obviously got fed up with Hollywood's bullshit. She plays a woman called Bridget Gregory, and her husband is training to be a doctor, but is in debt to loan sharks. So he arranges to sell a whole bunch of pharmaceutical cocaine to some drug dealers, and they pay him $700,000. And he comes home and he slaps Bridget in the face when they have an argument. So while he's sleeping, she steals the money and disappears, and moves to a small town near Buffalo, and meets a local man and uses him while she's figuring out what to do. And she rips off every man in this movie and does it really, really well. It's Linda Fiorentino at her best, kind of weaponizing her sexuality. Her character, Bridget, weaponizes her sexuality, gives a false name, plays guys off against each other, and really lands it. It is a terrific film, and one that doesn't get anywhere near as much love as it should. It's actually by this one release was by Umbrella under their old title of Flashback Entertainment, but it's one that I think I might want to upgrade at some stage in the future because it is that good, and it does have a lot of the tropes of an old school film noir with the femme fatale, but updated to a modern era where things are a lot more blatant. And it should Red Rock, yeah, I agree, Gary. Red Rock West is another fun Dahl film, but yeah, this one really great, and the script is really tight too. I'm trying to read out who it was written by Steve Baranczyk, I think it is, and yeah, the script is just so tight and on point, and perfect vehicle for Linda Fiorentino. Yeah, she was great in Jade. She was never less than great in anything she did. But again, Hollywood being the meat grinder it is for women who are perceived as sexy, I can understand why somebody wouldn't stay in the industry in the way that Linda Fiorentino didn't stay in the industry. But this one is a real piece of work that needs to be appreciated much more than it has been. Let's see what I've got next. 3 more to go. Yeah, absolutely. William Blackwell. Yeah, since Gotcha, she did Gotcha really early in her career, but she had a presence and a forthrightness and the persona of somebody that doesn't take anybody else's bullshit. And I think that that plays well in the modern era. Now, this one's again in the 1970s. I did another movie by this director in an earlier part of the Hidden Gems. This one's got a ton of extras. Yeah, After Hours, absolutely. Have I ever weaponized my sexuality? Not to use on, but this one is a Radley Mesker movie from the 1970s, The Licorice Quartet. Now, speaking of erotic thrillers, this one is a weird film. It's directed by Bradley Metzger. It's about a bunch of rich people in a castle, a rich couple who, with their grown-up son, decide to watch an old adult film from the silent era. And they're sitting around the couch and drinking wine and things and watch it. And then they go and see a show with a Wheel of Death, one of those things where people ride motorcycles up the walls of a circular track. And they see a woman who's part of that show who seems to be the same woman who was in the 1920s adult film that they saw. And they invite her back to their place because they're intrigued why she looked like exactly like the woman from a 50-year-old movie. And they kind of get involved with her. We don't know whether the plot makes any sense or not, but it's beautifully shot, fantastic soundtrack as well, and really, really something worth watching. This is the Arrow Video version of it. I do not use my sexuality on weaponized on you, middle-aged good girl. I don't have to. You love me. There is a booklet on this one as well, some of which I can't show you on YouTube. Actually, if I do that, I can. That's the kind of movie it is. Let's see, what parts can I show you? So it's one of those kind of stylish, arty adult films. Doesn't go all the way to an extreme as far as the sexuality and the nudity is concerned, but it's stylish as hell. And I can't show you that page, and I can show you that page. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff about this one. It's a movie that's been studied by film scholars as much as anything else. And let's see, there's a 2-disc one. It's all region as well, which is kind of cool. Let's see, that's the DVD version, but the Blu-ray version is all region. If you want to pick up a copy of that, it's a recommend from me. Middle-aged geek girl, can you look after Luna because she's bashing against the door, please? Yeah, the next one I've got. So I've got 2 more in the letter L, which are recommendations. This one's Arrow Academy version. Has it got a booklet? No, it doesn't have a booklet. But it's one that should be on your list if it isn't already. Robert Altman film from the 1970s, Long Goodbye with Elliot Gould. Philip Marlowe, in a modern era rather than the 1940s, he's updated to the 1970s, with Elliot Gould is in there. It's got a great supporting cast too. Sterling Hayden, Nina Van Palant, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think Stallone turn up as gangsters in this one as well. It's a real interesting reinterpretation of Philip Marlowe, the Raymond Chandler character, in a more cynical age, the 1970s as opposed to the 1940s. And a lot of people were pissed off with it at the time because they really didn't like the idea of updating Philip Marlowe to a modern era. You do need to sit down and watch it, William Blake Hall. It's really worth it. Terrific film. Los Angeles in the 70s was a photogenic, a kind of grungy, photogenic place, and really totally worth it. And there's a scene of utter brutality in this. Mark Rydell plays one of the plays the head gangster in this, and he does something. I haven't seen anything quite as transgressive in a crime film since this movie. You'll know the scene if you've seen the movie, but it really is great. And there are a ton of extras on there. Have a look at that list of extras. I don't expect you to read them all, but a ton of extras in here. And again, it's another one of those movies that film scholars really enjoy. Yep, Luna just walked past, so I'm so hi to Luna. But yeah, The Long Goodbye, I had a just a DVD copy of this at some stage, but I definitely upgraded it because the extras sold me, and if I can get a Blu-ray of something I really enjoy rather than just a DVD, I will sometimes upgrade. Though I kind of make those judgments on a case by case basis, but should definitely be in your collection. Luna's sitting on middle-aged geek girl's chest because that's one of her home places. So middle-aged geek girl's just going to rest there. And now's your time to act up because she can't use the keyboard very well. So yep, long goodbye. Second to last one. Last one's a comedy and it's mad and I don't understand it. This one is a Kino Lorber one. Sterling Hayden, love the guy. Yep, Sterling Hayden is one of your favorites, I know. Along with that guy with the mustache who was in Soldier of Fortune, along with Clark Gable. I know you like that guy as well. What's his name? I'm going to just have to find this. Sorry if I'm going. Alexander Darcy, that's the guy. Alexander Darcy. If you want to kind of Google him afterwards, that guy had a really groovy mustache. Yeah, absolutely, Gary. Top tier Altman. Luna enjoyed the cat scenes. Yeah, she does. Luna occasionally watches cats on television, but I find she really likes mellow jazz and Japanese city pop from the 1980s. When she's sitting up here on the desk, she usually sits over there. But the last one is a black and white film directed by George Axelrod and written by George Axelrod in the 1960s. Stars Roddy McDowall, Tuesday Weld, Lola Albright, who I really have a thing for, and Ruth Gordon. Lord Love a Duck. Now, this is weird because you've got Roddy McDowall, who's in his mid-30s, playing a high school kid, which is really weird, along with Tuesday Weld, and he becomes kind of a mentor to her. And she has a mad mother played by Lola Albright, and it's an indescribably crazy film. This is a new 2K master by Kino Lorber. It was from 1966, but it is just indescribably mad in so many ways. And there's a scene with Tuesday Weld's character where she's trying on sweaters for her father, and her father's almost orgasmic about the different sweaters. Yeah, Axelrod is a Manchurian Candidate, so knowing about this duck is a trick. Lord Love a Duck is worth checking out. This of the 10 I've just talked about, this is probably the most hidden gem. It is something crazy. Now let's have a look if there's anything on the inside. No, it's just a pure Kino Lorber one. Again on a skinny case, which I always appreciate. But Lord Love a Duck is really, really nutty. Ruth Gordon in Rosemary's Baby, weirdest thing to witness when she's eating cake. Yeah, absolutely. She was also really great, of course, in Harold and Maude with Bud Cort. So her late career resurgence was a really interesting phenomenon. But I want to rewatch Lord Love a Duck soon because I just like what it does. Region A locked, so you need a multi-region player if you're in Australia, which it doesn't look like a lot of the people on here are. But yeah, really worth checking out. So I'm going to take a break. Darcy was in some Valentine's Day Massacre too. It was also in something called Horror of Spider Island, I think, which is a really crazy movie. But hey, Zom, do you want to put a link up to your podcast? Just post a link there, mate, in the chat so that people can groove on silver and gold. Now, I'm just going to move some things around because I've got an enormous stack of stuff that I picked up. Some of which I bought new, some of which I got at charity stores. Went to this place called Mornington, which is down by the bay, and it's a very expensive place for people to live. It's full of rich people, and every second store is either a real estate agent or a beauty salon, and then everything else is in between. But they're the two major kinds of stores they have there. But went down there just for a drive. I'd gone to Hastings, which is across another bay because it's on. They're both on a peninsula, so they bracket the peninsula. Picked up a couple of things there as well, but if you're going to go looking for thrift store DVDs and Blu-rays, here's my tip. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. But yeah, here's my tip. Go to the expensive suburbs. Go to the charity stores where the rich people live, because you're going to find the good stuff there. I've got friends who do this kind of semi-professionally, Sue-Ann and Trev, and they always tell me where the good op shops are when we go out treasure hunting. So there's that. So I'm just going to go through these. These three I picked up yesterday on 4K because JB Hi-Fi, a big box store that still sells DVDs and Blu-rays, had a buy two get one free sale on all of their movies, and I availed myself of that. I decided to get some 4Ks, one of which is one of Sal's favorite shark movies, Jaws. I got Jaws on 4K, and again, these weren't particularly expensive. We've all seen it, but there's a lot of extras. There's the making of. There's a shark is still working. The impact and legacy of Jaws. Jaws, the restoration. Deleted scenes and outtakes. Original theatrical trailer. But I thought this one was worth getting on 4K, and I'll recycle the old version that we've got to a charity store or somewhere like that. But I'm kind of glad I did the upgrade because it's worth having. Saw this in the cinemas originally. I don't even know the cinema. I went to see this at the Winter Garden in Double Bay. But Jaws, definitely worth having on 4K. I've got to work out where I'm putting things after I review them because I've got this mountain of discs here. Okay, middle-aged girl, Patreon update, she says. Yeah, Zom, post a link to Silver and Gold in the chat there, mate, too. Patreon update. Okay, yeah. Just let me, I'm going to blow my nose. I know it's not good content, but got to do what you got to do. Yep. Patreon supporters, people who are Patreon supporters will know this, but people who aren't Patreon supporters won't know this. I've actually started a thing on the Patreon page where I've got a Spotify account now because I was slow at getting a Spotify account. But every month I put up a playlist of different music tracks, usually about 25 of them I'm doing, that sometimes are movie related. Sorry. Sometimes are movie related. Sometimes are movie adjacent. So I'll put up, I've done the first one already, and I'm doing another one tomorrow at the start of the month. So each month, the Patreon supporters of the channel are going to get a new link to a Spotify playlist of carefully curated music from movies. So I'm doing that, and it's a lot of fun to do. So that's one thing. The second thing is I've started memberships on the channel on YouTube. I'll talk about that in a moment, bro. But yeah, I started memberships so people can actually become members of the channel, and they pay $5.99 Australian a month. And for that, you also get the link to the Spotify playlist. I'm going to probably be doing a few videos that I'll link for the Patreon supporters and the members, just short things where I'm updating people on things, or if something comes up, I'll talk about it. But yeah, so that's open to people if they want to as well as super chats here on the channel if you just hit that $sign below. But yeah, Brian, Point Blank, I've got Point Blank on my coffee table at the moment to rewatch. John Borman's Point Blank is fantastic, and Lee Marvin in it is terrific, particularly when Angie Dickinson's beating the shit out of him, and he's just standing there like a rock. And it's got a good supporting cast in it too. John Vernon's in there. Carol O'Connor's in there as well, playing one of the kind of gangsters. And I remember in 1998 when I went to Alcatraz, the one movie I thought of when I was in Alcatraz was Point Blank because it starts in Alcatraz. But yeah, fantastic film. And Borman taking crime movies in a totally different direction for 1960 cinema. really something special. Oh, he might have. I think he did direct Catch Us If You Can. Let me find out. Yeah, he did direct it in 1965. So it was only 2 years before Point Blank. And so he went from Dave Clark 5 to Lee Marvin, which has got to be a bit of a change there. But yeah, Catch Us If You Can. I kind of like there's all sorts of those band movies from the 1960s. Things like Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter with Herman's Hermits, and Catch Us If You Can, of course. And then they all jumped on the bandwagon as the Beatles did their movie. But yeah, favorite Borman flick has got to be Excalibur. I kind of like Point Blank more than I like Excalibur. I think the Vaseline on the lens in Excalibur put me off a bit. But yeah, Point Blank definitely a good movie. So the other two 4K I got, both totally worthwhile. I upgraded another one of my Christmas movies to 4K because it was there, and as I said, buy two get one free. I got Die Hard on 4K. Don't know if I'm going to update all of the Die Hard movies to 4K. Probably not. But this one I definitely thought was worth doing because I do watch annually. Let's see. It's also the HDR version. It's in high dynamic range, so it's going to look as good as it did on the original cinema screens. Let's see what extras we've got. Commentary by director John McTiernan and Jackson DeGovey. Scene-specific commentary by Richard Edlund, who was, I think, the DP. Subtitle commentary by cast and crew, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, this one's got a high dynamic range in it as well, which always makes it a little bit sharper. And yeah, it's going to be. I actually did a video a long time ago where I talked about how I won $500 watching Die Hard. It might be worth tracking down in the lists if you like. So if you type in Terry Talks Movies Die Hard into YouTube, you'll find out that story, which is quite fun. And the good thing is, when I did that video, I had it independently verified by a couple of people who were actually there when that happened. And so it's good to know that my memory was valid for that. The last one I got is from the 1950s. It's a Nicholas Ray film. I got Rebel Without a Cause on 4K. Totally worth it. Really great film. There was a book made about the making of this, which shows some interesting aspects to all of the main players. But this one's got a commentary track by Douglas Rathgeb, who was the author of a book about it, also on the Blu-ray. Documentaries, Rebel Without a Cause, To Find Innocence, and James Dean Remembered. Dennis Hopper's Memories from the Warner Lot. Additional scenes without sound, theatrical trailer, and a lot more. But yeah, Rebel Without a Cause. I'm glad I got that because I've only seen a slightly sketchy DVD copy of it from back in the day. Yeah, Tommy Wiseau probably stole that from James Dean. Absolutely. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. But yeah, and the dynamic between the three main players, Natalie Wood's character, James Dean's character, and Sal Minio's, is really interesting. And the fact that Jim Backus played James Dean's father in a good dramatic role, I really like the way he did that. So I've got them. I've got a few. I did get another 4K. Where did I put it? There it is. Their update. She's chewed a middle-aged good girl's hand and has now left her. But that's how she does it. She sits on your chest for a while. She chews your hand and then she buggers off. This one I got for $6 when I was at the thrift stores. A 4K for $6 at a thrift store. It was in this original wrapper when I got it. And it's the one movie in this series that I didn't have, apart from the most recent one that came out. Mission Impossible Fallout I got on 4K HDR with Blu-ray 4K and a bonus disc for $6 Australian. I've got to go to the posh suburbs and hunt around for Blu-rays and DVDs more often, because this is a bargain. Again, I've got this crazy feeling about the Mission Impossible films, in that I like the films, but I don't like Tom Cruise. And I put something out on social media about that, and I had about 3 or 4 people agree with me that they like the Mission Impossible films. They like the whole environment of, they like the direction, they like the way it goes, but they don't like Tom Cruise. And I think this may be the only franchise that's a part of. It's a weird thing, but it's a phenomenon that a lot of people have. How does anybody else feel about those movies? Yeah, Middle-aged Geek Girl says, remember to hit the like button, and if you haven't done it already, it helps with the algorithm. Yep, definitely hit the like button. Got 18 likes on there. There's 31 people watching, which is pretty damn good. But yeah, Mission Impossible Fallout, that's the one with Henry Cavill pumping his arms when he's in the fight scene in the toilets. And Henry Cavill was kind of my second favorite villain in the Mission Impossible series, right after Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3. Because Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3 jams a bomb up Tom Cruise's nose. And there's something outrageous and intriguing and fun about that. Yeah, he was in Valkyrie. Tom Cruise, Hunter says, Tom Cruise, like the art, hate the artist. Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon. And I think that one of the issues I have with, I saw the most recent one, Dead Reckoning Part 1. And one of the issues I have is there's too much Tom Cruise and not enough Ethan Hunt in these movies. And so the fact that Tom Cruise draws attention to the fact that he does his own stunts, which I don't particularly care about one way or the other, I just want to see the action, draws you away from the character and the story and puts the spotlight on Tom Cruise as an egomaniac. And I think that that's one of the main problems with this. Yep. Ross says, I love the team aspect of the original series. When I watched the first film, I hated how it turned out. I think I only saw one other one since. Yeah, the ensemble works well. The team works well with Tom Cruise, but they don't get enough oxygen either. Phil Seymour Hoffman was great. And Cruise has a lot. Tom says Cruise has lots of charisma, but he seems so disingenuous, like an alien pretending to be a human. He is. He's a Thetan. Garfield Smith says MI films are pure escapism. Sit back and enjoy them with a bowl of popcorn and a soda. Yeah, I mean that's the level at which you watch them, of course. But engagement with the lead character, I think, is an important part of that. And we don't get that with the Mission Impossible films. He is an odd little man. I actually said that. I think it was in my last video, something about the world being saved by a small running man. Same with Kevin Spacey. I met Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey is creepy as fuck in real life. I saw him at a very small press conference in 1988 where he directed a film called Albino Alligator, and there was only like 6 people at the press conference. It was during the Melbourne Film Festival, and I went there and I reviewed the movie for a website at the time. And the vibe Spacey gives off is creepy as fuck, and his head's about twice as big as a human head. Yeah, like the younger Cruise in Risky Business, ME. I haven't seen Risky Business, oddly enough. It wasn't my kind of thing. I was watching Charles Band movies in the 1980s. But yeah, I understand. Hi, Frony. How you doing? Yeah, so next one. These ones I got for like $5 each at JB Hi-Fi. I'll probably get the whole lot of them. And I'm tempted to do another 24-hour movie marathon and include Albino Alligator. Was a good film. I think there was some weaknesses in it, but I think it was an honest film. But these ones, here's what I'm tempted to do. I'm tempted to watch all the Fast and Furious movies in a 24-hour movie marathon because I can fit them in. 10 has just come out, and the 10 movies run 23 hours. I can do them in a 24-hour movie marathon. What do people think about me doing that? Because I've now got Fast and the Furious, which I got for $5. Fast and Furious, which is the third one. Oh, sorry, fourth one. And Too Fast, Too Furious. But I can get the others quite easily. So, yeah, I got those because they were really cheap, and I had this idea in my head to watch all 10 of them in a go. Not Hobbs and Shaw, because that's off to one side, but all 10 Fast and Furious movies in one go. Yeah, funny. It is. It's this silly good fun. Here's my thing, and I'm going to speak ill of the dead here. Never liked Paul Walker. I think he's the weak link in the first lot of Fast and Furious movies. Yeah, pretty boy, a little bit of charisma, a little bit of riz, but I don't think he brought much to the table, really. Yeah, Hunter, I've done 24-hour movie marathons before. I watched all the Tarantino movies in 24 hours. It's in one of my playlists, the 24-hour movie marathon playlist. I've done a number of them. One of them I failed at because I had undiagnosed diabetes at the time and it wasn't being treated and I fell asleep. But I can do it now by moderating my medication. But I'm tempted to do the Fast and Furious ones. A lot of them are on streaming, so I can watch them all there and just go through them. And I'll probably be zombified. No disrespect, Zom. I'll probably be zombified by the end and mumbling, it's all about family by the time we get to number 10. But I can do it. And I think I might have a bit of fun reviewing each of them at the end of watching them and just kind of going through that. Yeah, Tarantino is good. But I wanted to find another movie series I can do and thematically do them. I did do a lucky dip where I just pulled movies out of a random box. And I got some really shit stuff doing that, and I don't want to do that. Absolutely, Hobson sure is great. Though Dwayne Johnson is kind of heading in the Tom Cruise direction of being the focus of movies rather than being integral and enmeshed in the rest of the movies. Black Adam's like that incredibly. I can, but should you? Why not? You know, my channel, I can do it. I can have a bit of fun. I can test myself, which I always enjoy doing. But yeah, why not? And that you see, you've done that now, Hunter. I'm going to do it. I'll do it in the next month or so. I'm going to do all of the Fast and Furious movies in a 24-hour movie marathon. I've just got to work out the logistics with Middle-Aged Geek Girl out of respect and then just do it. And I probably would. Yeah, props to Dwayne for the SAG contribution. Yeah, that's interesting. Dwayne Johnson donated a lot to the writers and actors strike. But I've got two concerns about that. First one is it's a tax write-off. Two, after Black Adam, his career's just started to dive down. So any positive publicity he can garner from the time when he can't make and promote movies is designed to help him. So I think that I'm always wary when they do, or when billionaires start a foundation and try to help things. There's a YouTube channel called Some More News, which Cody Johnson does, and he talks about how billionaire charity doesn't really cost billionaires anything, and often doesn't help what they intended to help. And he goes on to talk about which charities do help. Things like Dolly Parton's charities have made enormous contributions to the people she's helped by focusing in specifically on a fixable problem. So, yeah, rich people charity is something you should always take with a grain of salt because usually they're not out of pocket. But yeah, Fast and Furious movies, I kind of like the spectacle and the silliness of them. Launching a car into space to fix something is kind of a wild concept, and they just keep getting madder and madder and madder. Bloodshot is your favorite Fast and Furious movie, Zom. Bloodshot I've got a copy of here, but anyway, I'm going to get to them. let's get on with these things because we've only got an hour left. And these again op shop pickups. Winning with Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward, and Robert Wagner. Now this one is cool. I like this one a lot because it's got a lot of car racing stuff in it. I think it's a solidly written and directed movie, and it's a little bit. It's a 1960s, so it's of its time in a sense. But there's a lot of good, solid, real, well filmed car action. Who was the DP on this? It doesn't say. Music by Dave Grusin. If you haven't seen Winning for Yonks, yeah. At $1, I'm going to pick up a movie like that and add it to the selection. Thought Winning was with Charlie Sheen. Nah, not this version. Now, this one I bought for $1 again because I thought I might do really bad science fiction movies for one of the Science Fiction Saturday videos. And I don't think they get any worse than this because they're a double feature. Are they on individual discs? No, they're not even on individual discs. They share a disc. Alien Intruder and Space Fury. One of them's got Michael Paré in it. Who's in the other one? Billy D. Williams, Jeff Conaway, Maxwell Caulfield. We covered a Robert Wagner golf movie, Banning. Banning is a good movie. I like it a lot. It's got Susan Clark in it. It's got Gene Hackman in a supporting role. But Banning is my go-to comfort film in sometimes. Just that kind of 1960s Universal B picture. Unfortunately, there's only a 3:2 ratio version of it out there, which Umbrella put out. Ross Gordon saw Alien True the other day. Tracy Scoggins is quite decent. Yeah, she wasn't a bad actress, but people tended to focus on her looks. But yeah, I'm going to do that for a video at some stage in the future, just to basically shit on it. But I got that. I'm not sure why I picked this one up. It's a drama starring Liev Schreiber, Marissa Tomei, Peter Skarsgård, Human Capital. Don't know anything about it. May watch it, may just chuck it back into an op shop somewhere. Umbrella put it out, so it may have some virtue to it. But I know nothing about it. And so I just picked it up because it was there. It was $1. No, I'm not going to do that one. Now, this one is weird because it's a Taiwanese version of an American musical from the 1950s. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, with Jane Powell and Howard Keel. Is Michael Paré generation's John Philip Law? No, because Michael Paré didn't do any movie that was as cool as Danger Diabolic. He is low rent John Philip Law. Yeah, I like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I think the movie's theme of kidnapping women and taking them up to a cabin is probably not one that plays well to a modern audience. But it's got great dancing, great songs in it, and it's a lot of fun. I'm losing places to put these movies. This one I got for the simple reason that I have the Christmas movie. It's the original old school Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Nice little comedy, beautifully, racially diverse cast. Not getting two white guys to play the main characters is choice, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And of course, who directed it? Danny Lerner. But yeah, it's great. I like it. Okay, Brian, would I be seeing Ridley Scott's Napoleon? And if so, what about watching Waterloo beforehand? Yeah, I've got Waterloo because Imprint put out Waterloo and I've got a copy of it. But Ridley Scott's Napoleon, I'll probably see it. It sounds a bit like he's trying to do Abel Gance's Napoleon in a modern era. But yeah, I'll probably check it out because I like some of the stuff that Joaquin Phoenix is doing, and I'll watch it more for that because I'm not convinced that Ridley Scott is a good director. I think that he's a journeyman director, and he has been all the way. But I don't think that he has a particular viewpoint. Let's see. His responder says, "I had a crush on Miss Goggins as a kid. She was in the short-lived show. It was sort of an early version of 21 Jump Street." Cool. Can says, "Any chance of a complete collection of videos? I'd have to get things organized because um, some videos are in one room, some videos are in another room. Do have plans for getting the videos much more organized. And when I do, I'll probably do a bit of a look through. But I find those collections a little bit not my style, but I'll consider it. Definitely, I'll consider it. But I'll have to get a few things organized before I do. Do we have White Castle? No. I did get offered to take someone to take me to White Castle when I was in Minneapolis back in the day. And I said no because I wanted to go somewhere else. Phoenix is too old to play Napoleon. Yeah, it probably is a little bit. But I think he's a decent actor and he may bring it across. Your mother's favorite Ridley Scott movie is A Good Year. Yeah, I think Ridley Scott wants to do spectacle, but in the few movies he's done, which are at a smaller scale, I think that is more where his strength is, even though he doesn't know it. The Duelists were great, but yeah, not Scott, but like Charge of the Light Brigade. I haven't seen Charge of the Light Brigade for a long time. And that reminds me of an Australian movie called The Light Horseman, where there was a cavalry charge at Beersheba during World War II with Australian soldiers on horses, and they actually took the town. But yeah, I mean, that was probably going to be held back because Scott's Napoleon is going to be one where he's going to want the stars and other people to promote the movie, and that's not going to happen at the moment. So a lot of these films are going to be held back for potentially a long time, unless the suits in the big studios get their finger out. One of the smart things that's happened recently regarding that kind of stuff is small studios like A24, who do good dramas and horror movies and comedies, have signed the agreement with the actors and the writers. They've given them what they've asked for. And so they can go back into production. They can keep making movies because they've kind of gone, yep, that's fair. The offers, the conditions that the writers and actors have given are conditions that A24 have agreed to. And they are, I've seen them, and they are reasonable asks. And so these small studios that are very nimble and fast, Blumhouse and A24, they're the new Roger Cormans, but of higher quality than old Corman films, have agreed to it. And so they're going to go back into production. Their movies are going to get into cinemas. They're going to have their people promote them because they can. They've reached an agreement. And so the big studios are either going to give in because they're going to lose revenue to small studios, or they're going to be stubborn and they may well kill themselves. Did the Light Horseman have a new horse riding? I think they did, middle-aged Google. What's my opinion of Gallipoli? Gallipoli, I'm kind of conflicted about. I think that it's Mel Gibson in a good early role. And I think it's a story that needed telling. But yeah, and I think the ending is brutal. But whether I like it, I think it glorifies warfare just that little bit, even though it is very scathing of the British command at Gallipoli. But it's a little bit there, neither here nor there. Under the Silver Lake, I agree, Jerry. So Under the Silver Lake is great. It's a mad movie. It's crazy as hell, but I enjoyed it. Friday says, I think Tony Scott was a better director than Ridley. I can see an argument for that, absolutely, because Tony Scott was a pure action guy. He stripped everything back and did some great stunt work. I mean, the stunt work in Tony Scott films was mind-blowingly good. And I remember seeing a few stuntmen interview when Tony Scott unfortunately took his own life, who had a lot of good things to say about him as someone to work with. Breaking Morant, absolutely Fresh Ponder. This is a solid movie. Am I going to see the Jim Caviezel child trafficking movies? No, I'm not. I'm not going to see Sound of Honor or whatever it's called, because I think it's a money laundering effort by a bunch of QAnon nutcases and Mormons in Utah. I think that the guy it's based on is someone who self-mythologized to a big extent. And I don't think it's a true and honest telling of what's really going on. I had arguments with people on Twitter when I dissed this movie because an Australian theatre chain, Hoyts, is going to show it. And I criticise them showing it because I don't think it deserves oxygen. And every QAnon nut and everybody who thinks we're living in a matrix attacked me on Twitter about that. I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't see it if it was free. I think that there are certain kinds of propaganda films we should ignore and we should not give anything to. And there's dangerous disinformation being spread by people like Jim Caviezel, who thinks that babies are being killed for their adrenochrome and all sorts of other weird QAnon kind of things. I think that you got to draw a line somewhere. And propaganda films that aren't truth tellers are incredibly dangerous. And I won't have a bar of it. Top Gun, like it or not, to find how to shoot planes. Yeah, definitely. But the weird thing about Top Gun is it's a love story between two guys and they put a woman in the middle of that. Yeah, Jerry, won't see that right-wing BS. Good show as ever. It would be nice to think the absence of Hollywood films during the strikes would mean that other countries' films will get distributed. There are some problems with doing that here in Australia because Australian films need US releases to make money. And the second movie of The Dry with Eric Bana has been held up by the studio, the Australian studio that made it, and by Eric Bana and everyone involved, because they like the film a lot and they want to promote it. And they want to be able to promote it widely. And so they're going to wait for the strike to end so they can do that. I think they've got some associations in some ways, maybe a distribution deal with one of the big studios in America, and they can't move until the big studios move on agreeing to the writers and the actors' demands. Hadn't heard that take on Sound of Freedom. Appreciate it. Thanks, William. There's a lot of propaganda about it, and there's also this weird phenomenon with Sound of Freedom where they're encouraging people to buy up tickets, and even if they don't watch a movie, but just buy up tickets and potentially give them away. And the weird thing about that is that people are going to see the movie and they know it's booked out because they got the last couple of tickets in cinemas, and they're walking to the cinema and there's 5 people there in a full cinema. The tickets are being bought, but people aren't watching the movie. They're being bought by people who want to promote the movie. Doesn't matter to them if they spend $800 booking out a cinema, as long as their viewpoint gets strengthened. There's a propaganda machine happening here, which is incredibly dangerous, and particularly in a time when larger and more inclusive films aren't able to be shown in cinemas because of the strike. Because it's an independent production and don't give a shit about the studio or about the strike. Sound of Freedom is getting more room than we wanted to have. Yeah, Trump's on his way out. Trump's got so many charges against him. Whether he goes to jail or not, he's not going to be an influence on anything in the future. Same people that believe Australia is not real. Yeah, I don't think it's the same people necessarily, middle-aged people. I think that it's the same kind of disinformation and believing untrue things and convincing people to believe untrue things. It's the same phenomenon, but it's not necessarily the same group of people. I'm going to get on with some more movies while we're here. What do I get? I got Burn Notice season 1. I think this is a good spy drama. I like a bit of spy television, and so I picked that up for a couple of bucks in a town called Hastings. Didn't have it. Probably will watch it. And the weird thing is, it won't focus on that. There, if I put it there, it probably focuses better. Yeah, Burn Notice is fun. Yeah, it is, William. It is the same as books by L. Ron Hubbard. People buying them up to make it a bestseller, but never actually reading them because they're unreadable. The next one I've got probably should have a Blu-ray of this, but I don't. Ah, fuck. Sorry. This one's in 4:3 aspect ratio. The Big Easy. Good film with Dennis Quaid and Ellen Barkin in it. Really nice little thriller. That's in 4:3 aspect ratio. I'm going to bin that one. Tom says, are the Fast and Furious movies getting better? I like them. I mean, I think they've got to this level of putting everything to 11. There's a cliffhanger at the end of 10 because 11 is going to be the last movie. And there's a cliffhanger where Vin Diesel drives a car with his kid in it off a dam, down off the dam, over the sluice gates, crashes into a lake. He and the kid escape from the car and swim to the surface and climb out to the rocks. And then the bad guys blow up the dam. And then it cuts to the end of the cliffhanger ending of Fast 10. I like that. It's mad. Yeah, Big Easy is a good film, and Bargains was good in Civil, but I'm not doing a 3:2 aspect ratio version. This one I bought. This one's in a decent aspect ratio. This one I bought because it's a cool action film. Rogue Assassin, Jet Li and Jason Statham. I'm going to watch it just for that. Don't know anything about it beyond that, apart from the fact it's going to have a lot of kicking and a lot of stuff. Dennis Quaid's southern accent in The Big Easy left much to be desired. Yeah, it didn't sound quite right from what I recall when I saw it. But there's so many bad accents in movies. Every time anybody who's not Australian tries to do an Australian accent, the whole nation cringes. Is Shut Eye good, Catherine? Haven't heard about it. Dennis Quaid singing was always poop. Yeah. The interesting things on is I've got an album of Jeff Chandler singing, and his singing voice is unusual. Let's see what I got here. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we've still got a bit of time. I haven't seen this one. Scorsese's The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio playing Howard Hughes. Got this one for $2. Worth checking out. And it's one of the rare Scorsese films I haven't seen. But it cost me $2 according to the label on the back. So I got that. And I'm going to hold it a little closer up so it focuses on it. I'll go through these fairly fast. We've got another musical, Annie Get Your Gun, with Betty Hutton. I was supposed to star Judy Garland, but she got sick. And Howard Keel. Again, this is a Taiwanese version of it, because it's got a lot of Taiwanese stuff on the back. Brian says, I'll be watching Dark of the Sun. Yeah, Dark of the Sun's great. The chainsaw fight in Dark of the Sun is something special. And it was directed, I think, by Jack Cardiff, who was a terrific cinematographer too. Watching Aviator decided Howard Hughes was a brilliant mess. Tom says it's interesting to look at OCD and mental illness. Yeah. Is Scorsese the best director of his generation? I don't know. I don't like the idea of best directors because directing is a diverse kind of job. And saying that he's a very, very, very good director. And he's also a good educator of cinema for people. But I don't think best director is a useful term. I think consistently good, yeah, absolutely. And diverse in what he does too. But best is a term because there are a number of good directors. Some of whom got the breaks that Scorsese did. Some of them didn't. I'm going to adjust this camera down so I can slouch more. Oops, the automatic went on. I'm going to turn it off. Tommy Lee Jones once played How I Used to. I think he did, yeah. But this one I got because I like one of the two movies. The other one, yeah. 2 video classic collection, Pillow Talk and Send Me No Flowers. Rock Hudson and Doris Day. So I picked that one up too. You know that little sticker that says Alan Jones recommends? Because Alan Jones is an Australian broadcaster who, when he was a teacher, sent a love letter to a 17-year-old male student of his. So very dodgy guy. But yeah, there's the back of it. You've got to watch them because I like them. Hi, Eric. How's middle-aged geek girl and the cats are doing well? Ross says, I've never been great on musicals. I've been trying to improve my range recently. Watched Sweet Charity. Thought it was great. Well, yeah, it's a remake of Knights of Cabiria, as you say. But Fosse is always worthwhile. In fact, there's a Fosse movie in this stack. I enjoyed Rocky Was Your Mother's Favorite. So that's sweet. How do old DVDs look on my home setup? Pretty good. Depending on the original transcription, they upscale nicely on my 4K TV. Now, this one I've heard bad things about, but I'm going to watch it anyway. Sucker Punch, which is a Zack Snyder film, apparently misogynistic as hell, problematic as hell, but I'm going to watch it just because I got it for $1. Got My Fair Lady as well, but I realised I already had it, so I'm going to give that to another charity store. Here's the Fosse movie. Ross says, saw Pillow Talk recently. It was good. Then you watched Lover Come Back and thought it was excellent. Got to get hold of Flowers as soon as you can. Sucker Punch is pretty and so boring. Okay. All that jazz. Bob Fosse's last great movie. Yeah, Emily Browning is good value. She's also in another movie I've got in this stack. But All That Jazz you should have in your collection. Terrific film. Autobiographical by Bob Fosse. Roy Schneider at his peak. Anne Reinking. All sorts of great people in the supporting cast as well. Really, really fine film. Here goes Zom. Bloodshot. I've got a copy of Bloodshot. Just to make you high. William Blackhall says, when I die, I want death to be Jessica Lange. Yep. But yeah, Bloodshot's a bit of fun. I think this one came out just as the pandemic hit, and so it didn't get much love. But yeah, Vin Diesel's great in this. Emily Browning was great in American Gods. You know where else Emily Browning was great? Zom, you're going to like this. Ghost Ship. She's a little girl who survives at the start of Ghost Ship. Yeah, Star 80 was a tough watch. Absolutely, I agree, Gary. Ghost Ship is a horror movie that has one of the best opening scenes of any horror movie and then pisses it all away. The opening scene of that is magic. Great horror movie opening scene. The rest of it, meh. Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, Emily Browning and Sleeping Beauty. That's such a problematic and dark film. This one I got because it's a slipcase movie. Remake of a TV series. Yeah, Gabriel Byrne. That one, Ghost Ship. Yeah, absolutely. Friday says, I still prefer Ghost Ship over Event Horizon. I haven't seen Event Horizon lately. I should rewatch it. Lee says, what do we think of Indy 5? Okay. It's not great, but I think it's okay. But I'm glad it's the last one. Eric Roberts is so good in Star Eddie. He was. Eric Roberts, when he wants to, is a good actor. I'm not going to talk much about this one. The movie of the A-Team with the Liam Neeson's in it and Bradley Cooper. Bit of fun. Sholto Copley's in there as well. D. Lee says, Nights of Cabiria is great. Julie Adams is superb. Has a very Dora Bryan feel about her. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, A-Team was fun but forgettable, absolutely. So I've got two more, and then we can do a Q&A. This one's a feel-good movie. It's a lot of fun. Chef with Jon Favreau. If you've ever worked in a cafe or a restaurant, this is a movie that you'll love. It's a feel-good film. It's a redemption arc film about a celebrity chef who opens a food truck. He says, I watched the A-Team movie twice, and I've forgotten to watch it. But this one's going to make you want to have a Cubano sandwich. Really good, low-budget film. Jon Favreau came off doing the first two Marvel movies, and then made this, and I love it. Eric says, well, there's a tank scene in the A-Team movie. Everybody knows that one. Yeah, it's a little bit unrealistic, but a lot of fun. Last one I got is a bit of fun. It's a kind of special effects action film. Okay, so do what you need to do, mate. We'll be here. R.I.P.D., which has Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges, which is a bit of fun. Not fantastic, but, watchable. A little bit of fun, ghosts and stuff like that. But, yeah. Let me have a drink of water again, because talking for 2 hours is a marathon. But, yeah, I kind of like R.I.P.D. It kind of works for me. And having the Ryan Reynolds character being ambiguous, he's not just a good guy, kind of works. The sequel is different. Okay, I haven't seen the sequel. But let's talk about the other elephant in the room. Barbie. Yes, I have a Barbie head. Barbie with Margot Robbie, Baby Goose, Ryan Gosling, Simu Liu, Will Ferrell's in there as well. Rhea Perlman's in there. America Ferrara. There's been a lot of guys talking about the Barbie movie online. All these right-wing nut jobs and kind of film bros are giving it a lot of shit. Now, I like Greta Gerwig as a director. I saw Lady Bird and loved it. But Barbie movie is great. I mean, I think it's more even-handed and inclusive than a lot of people say it is. Oh yeah, it's absolutely fun when the the kind of incels and the film bros get shitted off with Barbie, which is kind of dumb because it's an interesting film. And the Barbieheimer phenomenon I love. The idea of going to see Barbie and Oppenheimer sequentially is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's persuading people to go into the cinema. Some yanks are ripping the street. A lot of people have got a more nuanced view on Barbie, but it looks good. It's actually an alternate universe film too, because Barbie Land is an alternate universe. Yeah, as Middle Aged Google says, if film bros hate Barbie, they simply don't get it. and I like it. I enjoyed all of it. We went to see it at the Reading Cinema with the reclining seats, and comfy as hell. And everything's a culture war issue lately. I think that's because culture's changing. I think that culture's changing in a positive way, and some people don't like it. Some people resist change. Some people are scared of it. But I don't see anybody losing by saying that Barbie's an interesting and good film by a fantastic director. And Greta Gerwig is terrific. I'll talk about that in a minute, Brian. But yeah, we enjoyed it a lot. I think that Will Ferrell's character seems to be in the wrong film, where he plays the head of Mattel, the corporation that owns Barbie in the real world. And I'm not sure he's playing it the same tone as everybody else. And there's a bit of discord in what he does there. But it's a great film. And the commonality between Oppenheimer and Barbie is this: the last sentence spoken in each of these films is the most important one. So I'll leave that to sit with you for a moment. The speech American Ferrara did about being a woman is spot on. People need to hear that. Absolutely middle-aged geek girl. But yeah, it should be seen. And I'm going to get the Blu-ray or the 4K even when it comes out, because I think it's I like Greta Gerwig's stuff, and I will continue to support it. That Scottish guy, the critical drinker, there's some thinly veiled right-wing opinions in there. Yeah, I watched a few of that guy's videos on YouTube, and I think that for a start, having a drunken persona, whether he is drunk or not, having a drunken persona isn't something that builds credibility. You may laugh at it, but I think that yeah, he knows movies, but I don't think he's using that in a positive way. But I'll go back to what Brian's saying just for a moment. Ever seen Tarzan's Greatest Adventure with Gordon Scott? Anthony Quayle's terrific villain, Sean Connery, and Alan Mock as the henchman. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Though I think that I kind of have a fondness for the Jock Mahoney Tarzan movies that were made in the 60s. Tarzan in India and the other one. I like those ones because you had an older Tarzan in them. And I kind of appreciate that. But yeah, Barbie's worth seeing. I think that if you put aside all of the man children wetting themselves about it and saying that it's anti-male, I'm a 66-year-old cishet male. I loved it. It's not anti-male. This whole narrative thread is find out who you are and be yourself without preconceptions and without any imposed roles that are imposed from outside yourself and how you see yourself. And I think that's an important message. And it's a message that Ken gets at the end of the movie too. Yeah, it's a drunken persona allows him to say sketchy things, but you've got to question the reason why the critical drinker needs to say sketchy things. Yeah, Mr. Tish, I know what you mean there, but for me, I liked it. I think it's a movie with heart. It's a movie that says some things that need to be said in the public arena, and does it in an entertaining way and in a fun way. And the incels and the right wing Andrew Tate fans they can go piss in a hat. Don't care. Enjoy the movie. Oppenheimer, I enjoyed as well in a totally different way. I think there are bits where Oppenheimer falls down slightly, and I think part of that is the structure of it. Christopher Nolan does jump around the timeline of Oppenheimer's life a little bit, but Cillian Murphy is fantastic in this. If Ryan Gosling wins an Oscar over Cillian Murphy, I think that's a shame, because Gosling was good. Cillian Murphy was brilliant. Yeah, Bill Lilly, I've just heard about. It looks like an interesting one. 100 scales, Barbie's worth it. I think that if you go in there with an open mind, I think it's a movie you'll enjoy. And hearing other voices in cinema beside our own is one of the educational and learning experiences of being a film fan. I mean, I did that back in the 90s. I got free preview showings of a wide range of films that I was doing for a website, which unfortunately no longer exists. And seeing movies that were way outside my comfort zone taught me more about cinema than anything else. Barbie's worth it. I think it was. I think it was edited quite well. I think that structure. There's a couple of places where I'd change when certain things happen in the structure, but apart from that, yeah. Yeah, I like Brandon Tenold's approach to things. Haven't seen Deck of Shadow or Pitch Meeting. I have seen Pitch Meetings. Middle-aged good girl likes Pitch Meetings, but Brandon Tenold, I like what he does and how he does it with sketchy horror films and things like that. He's doing some good work. Middle-aged good girl says, I was the type of kid that pulled the head off Barbie, so I'm not a Barbie tragic, but the movie's awesome. 1 hour too long for Oppenheimer. I kind of went with it. I didn't mind the length, and it didn't affect me. I think I got rolled up in the story. I think that works. And what the thing people forget is it's a biopic. It's about a man. It's not about all the stuff around the side of what the man did. But what it tries to convey, and I think it does this part well, this guy coordinated and worked on and kind of moved ahead with the most brutal weapon in human history. And what are the impacts on who you are and how you see yourself of being the man who essentially created the atomic bomb, which was dropped on 2 cities? How does that mess with you? How do you live with that? All of these things are questions the movie raises. In 2019, I stood at ground zero in Hiroshima with middle-aged good girl, 100 meters below where the first nuclear weapon used against human beings was detonated, in a beautiful park with beautiful statues and trees and flowers, and one building in the middle, which was the municipal hall for Hiroshima, which was a stone and steel structure, about a quarter of which is still there. Watching Oppenheimer, I thought about being at Hiroshima, and I didn't need to see that part of Oppenheimer because I had been there. And it deepened my appreciation of the movie and the questions the movie raises about personal culpability and personal responsibility in a great way. Yeah, Lee, the scene with Truman at the end, I wanted to punch that prick in the face, even though he's played by Gary Oldman, who I love. I wanted to punch Truman in the face during that scene. Ross, thanks for being part of the live stream. Appreciate that. Get your sleep, mate. This is just go breathe. Haven't heard anything about Paul Thomas Anderson's next project. If he's doing a Thomas Pynchon adaptation, I think that if anybody's going to do a Pynchon adaptation, it's going to be Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah, Truman did really say that, Hunter, and I think that shows how less of a person Truman was than Roosevelt. Do I have any particular method of washing dishes? Yeah, I'll put them in this box under the sink, and then I'll put in a little cube of gelatinous stuff into the box, and then I'll press the buttons. Yep, the Hiroshima video to watch later, middle-aged good girl says. That's the link we've got there. Which pinch on Vineland? Just looking at the thing. That's very new school. Yeah, I mean, we got the technology, might as well use it. I would rather watch a movie than wash dishes. I could possibly do both, but I have my preferences. So now we got to the Gravity's Rainbow. I read Gravity's Rainbow. I still don't understand it, but that's me. Now's the time for the Q&A. Hit me with your questions while I sniff some eucalyptus oil. Is Gravity's Rainbow unfilmable? I don't think anything is unfilmable. Whether it's accessible when it's filmed or not, it's another matter. But that's for the filmmakers to decide. Alan Ford says, I'm about to finish Deathline after finishing my dishes. I will cover Deathline in a future video. I really want to hit that movie and do a review of it on the channel because I like Deathline. I saw it in the cinema and then I had to go into an underground train station afterwards. That was an experience in the 1970s. But yeah, Deathline I like a lot. Sorry, I've got a blocked up note, so I'm just getting that unblocked. But yeah, people should see Deathline if you haven't. What was Deathline called in other places? Give me a moment. It was called Raw Meat in some other countries. Have I reviewed Highway to Hell? Not yet. I saw it a long time ago, and I'm going to have to find a copy of it because I remember it being fun. And Mr. Diaz Genzi says, speaking of the Apocalypse, finally got to watch Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse from 1962. Excellent movie. I remember it being very good. I like the acting in it. Have I seen Picnic at Hanging Rock? If so, what are my thoughts? I have seen it. I've been to Hanging Rock. Hanging Rock's like 40-minute drive from here. Picnic at Hanging Rock, it's just like a lot of women in taffeta dresses screaming out Miranda and things like that. Didn't like it a lot. I think that those kinds of movies that don't. I mean, I don't mind the fact that the mystery isn't solved. I don't think it landed in a satisfying way on that lack of resolution, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's I think it's a good novel. The novel apparently is really good. Joan Lindsay's original novel, but the movie doesn't do it for me. Yeah, Donald Pleasance is excellent in Deathline / Raw Meat. He did so much good work in really small films in the 1970s before he did Halloween. He really gave extra value in a whole bunch of kind of low budget horror films at various times. And that does it for me. I love actors who do that kind of stuff. Let's see. I'll scroll back up the chat and see what we've got. Okay, and says, I watched Land of the Minotaurs recently with Peter Cushing, Donald Pleasance as an Irish priest. Not great, but I'll watch anything with Peter Cushing in it. Yeah, absolutely. Key says, I've been Hidden Gem K. Joseph Losey's King and Country. What's my opinion? I've got it. I haven't watched it yet. It was in my K's up on the shelf. And I thought, I've got to watch that, but I can't talk about it until I do. Middle-aged Good Girl says, is the Meg 2 going to be the best movie of 2023? You've seen the Barbie movie. Is the Meg 2 really going to be better than Barbie or Oppenheimer or a bunch of others? It's going to be fun. You and I are going to go see it, Middle-aged Good Girl, in the reclining seats. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The interesting thing is they're not actually doing any previews for reviewers, which leads me to think it might not be as good as we expect it to be, but we'll go and see it and have a lot of fun. The trailer to Meg 2 looks amazing. Yeah, it does. It's that kind of film where you're just going to sit back and enjoy the crazy. Donald Pleasance was the director's choice for Witchfinder General. Pleasance would do it well. I think that he had that ability to play evil really interestingly and deeper than a lot of other actors. Vincent Price was great, but Pleasance was an interesting idea. Kayan says Meg 2 will sweep the Oscars. You want to lay money on that? I will bet solid cash money on that one. But interesting thing is Meg and the Meg 2 are co-productions with Chinese companies. I think Tencent or one of those companies. And that always brings an interesting dynamic to it. And the special effects work tends to be different than American special effects work or English or Australian. There's a kind of interesting look to movies that have a lot of Chinese special effects spectacle in them. King of Country stars Tom Courtney went on the same high school you went to, Keith. That's interesting. Donald Pleasance was the Bliss Blofeld. I kind of like Christoph Waltz. I don't think Donald Pleasance's character was written enough in You Only Live Twice. I think that if they had given him more meat on the bone, he would have done better. Who would I cast in a Quatermass movie? Modern person cast in a Quatermass movie. Idris Elba as Quatermass. I think Idris Elba's got the gravitas and the smarts to play a really good Bernard Quatermass. Yeah, Donald Pleasance, Jose, in Fantastic Voyage, being engulfed by the white corpuscle. Yeah. Yeah, that's not something you're really trained for in film school, is it? Did everyone else think the effects in The Flash were terrible in places? I think they were stylized. I don't know whether it was lack of time and resources, but the stylization was an interesting choice. The Flash, I like the shout outs to previous generations, if you like that. Don't like Ezra Miller, but I think that showing the multiverse was something I liked. And I didn't particularly mind the stylization of it. If the strikes carry on, Meg 2 might be one of the few films left to nominate for the Oscars. No, because Barbie and Oppenheimer have already been out. Yeah, young Quatermass is he enters college in England and finds something weird, as long as they don't do Eddie Redmayne for Quatermass. The babies were barely better than Nellie McBeal. Yeah, I can see that. Jerry says, hey, Terry, there's a rumor that they're trying to remake the Australian masterpiece Dead Calm. Who would you like to see in the three main roles? Didn't like Dead Calm. I think that I'd seen some kind of European films of earlier decades, particularly Italian films that were very similar in plot. Not that keen on Dead Calm. Catherine says, Quatermass and Elba, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Elba has range. And I think that a Quatermass period piece with Elba in it would be interesting too, particularly with the racial dynamic there. I should be a casting director. I missed my calling. I should be a casting director. Pleasance was good as Himmler in The Eagle Has Landed. I haven't seen that for a long time, Tom, but I can believe it. I really liked Donald Sutherland in that, though. But yeah, I mean, maybe I should do a video of the top 10 Donald Pleasance roles. That might be interesting. Let me know what you think. Oh, by the way, super chats are available and channel memberships are available too, if people are interested. I'm going to dance for money in a minute. Pleasance says Blythe the Forger. Yep, in The Great Escape. He was actually in prison of war camp during World War II, so he was lived experience in The Great Escape. But it will be great. Rewatch the Quatermass movies the other week. Yeah, I never liked Brian Donlevy in those. I think that him as Quatermass was a big mistake. Andre Morel, I liked as Quatermass, but definitely not. Mick507 says, cast James Bond. I would have liked it. There's two people I would have liked to have seen as James Bond: Clive Owen and Henry Cavill. They won't get a chance to now. They're both too old. But I would have liked to have seen their iterations of Bond. I think it would be Benedict Cumberbatch they'd try to get for Quatermass. Yeah, absolutely. I could see Cumberbatch, but I think he's done the kind of eccentric scientist role a few times. Idris Elba's left field for that, and I think that would land well. Middle-aged giggle says, this is your 10-minute call. We have to leave on time today as she has a medical appointment, so get those questions in. Yep, we have to leave definitely at 9 a.m. here because we have a day to do. And I'm looking forward to getting another coffee. Henry Cavill, how old is Henry Cavill? Just give me a second. Henry William Dalglish Cavill, 40. He's too old to start in the Bond franchise because they don't want to have another Roger Moore thing where you're like 85 years old and you're trying to seduce 20-year-old girls. They're looking for somebody late 20s, early 30s for the Bond so they can carry them for 10, 12, 15 years in the franchise. Don Levy was also in the first Gamma movie. Was that in the American adaptation of it? What am I reading at the moment? Let's see, what am I reading at the moment? I'm reading some old John D. MacDonald novels, and I'm also reading. Let me get my Kindle. My Kindle's over here. I've got a lot of shit on this desk. I'm reading the Slow Horses novels as well. I'm reading Slough House thrillers. The first one, Slow Horses. So I'm reading that at the moment. Who wrote that? And I'm also reading Ian Fryer's The World of Sylvia and Jerry Anderson. I've got that as well. Future Bond is a time period Bond, 50s and 60s. Don't think that'll play. I did like the Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie that was set in the 60s. Classic films aren't discussed anymore. Paper Moon, yeah, Paper Moon's pretty good. Yeah, period Bond would be okay, but I'm not sure that it would play to as wide an audience as they want. I think there are some interesting things happening in the world now, which would carry a Bond movie, interestingly. You too, Mick. Take care. Let's do Dr. No again. I think remakes of Bond films aren't where the franchise should go. And they've got to make a Bond movie with an eye to Mission Impossible films and other things that are going off to the sides and try to find a path that's their own through that. I think a smaller scale Bond movie where Bond works not necessarily at a Jason Bourne level, but at a James Bond level, different than enormous franchises are doing. I think that might be interesting. There's no way Bond can save Twitter. Yeah, well, basically, Twitter's like Michael Caine said in the Batman movie. Some men just want to see the world burn. And I think that the egos of billionaires are the biggest threat we have. Max Allan Collins' Nolan novels. I've read some of his comic work, and I like his work. The latest card case crime editions use Lee Van Cleef for the cover art. That's kind of cool. Bond said in a nursing home with Spectre sending agents as nurses trying to kill him. They did that in Never Say Never Again, and also Thunderball. Get Margot Robbie to play Bond just for the reaction from some quarters. Yeah, well, I think that you've got to be surgical about the way you piss off the incels. Bubba Hotep Bond edition. Yeah, I could see that. I think if you're going to go big scale with a Bond film, it's got to look and feel different than all of the other big scale action films we've got at the moment. I think that's where we need to go. And the Mission Impossible films, the last few, have stolen some of the mise en scène of a good Bond film. Charlize Theron's already played Bond in Atomic Blonde. But I think Bond as a character has a particular ethnicity, which is intrinsic to the character. He's half Scottish, half Swiss. Now you can retrofit a person from another ethnic background into that, but I think that ambiguity of Middle European and Scottish conservatism is one of the things that made the novels Bond an interesting character who felt guilty about indulging himself. Yeah, I could see that a new Bond movie introducing a female character kick off her own movie franchise. They tried to do that um, with one of the Bond films in the late 90s with the Jinx character, but that never worked. I think he's trashing Twitter because he wants to show the world he can. I think that's the reason why um, Musk is doing that. I think that he didn't like some of the things Twitter did, particularly when it allowed a lot of mockery of him. And so he bought it up when he's a debt to do it. And he's just, yeah, kicking over the monopoly board. How about a Felix Leiter spin-off movie? Felix Leiter was always a sidekick. I don't think there's enough meat on the bone canonically to know a lot about Felix Leiter. I kind of like James Bond. I think that in the novels, he's a more complex character than, with the possible exception of the Daniel Craig films, than most Bond movies have allowed. The Daniel Craig one started with Casino Royale, which had as close as you're going to get in the modern era to the classic Bond. The fact that he kept his distance from women while enjoying them by having affairs with married women, so there was that distance. All of that is both Ian Fleming and James Bond as originally written. Someone says they recently did a Felix Leiter comic book series that was good. Yeah, I can see that. I've actually been reading some of the James Bond graphic novels that come out recently, and they're solid in a modern era, and they've got some complexity to them. The thing is about Bond in the modern era is England's a declining country. They did the stupid thing with Brexit. They're a declining world power, and having a Bond situated in an acknowledgement of that will be really kind of interesting. Hi, Damien. You think that Bond movies should rest for a while? Yeah, they are. Everybody's resting. The strike is making everyone rest. And the thing is that the strike is an opportunity as well. The writer's strike and the actor's strike allows a couple of things. First one is writers can really work on their scripts. They can't sell them, they can't have them there. But spec scripts are going to be really good in the next 10 years because the writers have had time to refine them and hone them. Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark in a Bond universe. Thin character. That's the thing. Those characters are kind of thin. And also, he got his face melted off. But yeah, there were a lot of military showbiz people who were either military or SOE, particularly think people like Christopher Lee. Keith, take care. Thanks a lot for coming in, mate. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that you got there. 9 a.m. Got to stop this. Thank you very much to everybody who's been a part of this. Really enjoyed this one. We had a good time. We got through a lot of weird and wonderful stuff. So don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do everything you need to do. And I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for the reminder, Chick.